All right. You know what time it is? Thursday night, live in the counselor's corner. We're going to have another one of those cocktail conversations. So let me begin. Sometimes as adults, we feel like we don't owe our children any explanation because we are grown, but some things are just wrong to keep away from our children. Well, tonight, March 11th, I will be having another cocktail conversations in the counselor's corner. I have the big bad wolf on the side, Herb Lewis. Please like and share this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. Come on now, this has been a slow process with the subs on YouTube, but I remember for a while I was stuck in like my 130s because really wasn't pushing it. But these last, few months during this pandemic, I've been pushing it. So I'm getting close to 200, and it is not an easy thing, but I'm working. I'm putting in that work. So all I need to do is people to subscribe to build it up. So let's take a look at a quick snapshot of what's to come tonight. Kendra found out through Facebook. We know, like how most people find out stuff through Facebook, when somebody died or somebody went to jail or somebody in the hospital, somebody broke up, new couples, everything. So she found out through Facebook that her father, Timothy, was getting married after she had asked him, and he denied being in a relationship. Oh, Timothy said, man, pretty much mind your business, or nah, I don't got no woman. It So he denied it. She also felt her father's fiance was stupid because how could she let this go on? Basically saying, you're getting married to my dad. I'm his only child, and you didn't think about me, so you're not going to invite me along to come to the wedding. So, do you think Kendra is wrong for how she felt? What are your views regarding her dad, Timothy? How do you think the fiance should feel? So, it's so many different avenues or variables that we can look at, and that's what I plan to do tonight to talk about some of these things. And before we get started, I bring Herb in, and I got Anita in the studio. Man, I was just sitting here. I've been seeing a couple shows. They've been talking about it. Man, do we realize a year ago that we first just started this pandemic? And it's crazy to think that it's been a year. It's been a year. And I just remember, and the reason why I said this also, because I was just watching Inside the NBA with Kenny Smith, and they had like a promo talking about a year ago. And then I think about that time leading up to everything. I was like, man, I was sick as a dog. Really didn't heard about the COVID stuff, but really wasn't sweating it. And then all of a sudden, during the time I was out, they were like, you guys are not returning back to school. Schools are closed. I think that was March 13th. So it's been a crazy year, man. That's all I can say. But that's a whole nother subject. Her was good, man. I'm gonna ask you a question off the muscle, and I asked this earlier. Why in the
Yeah,
hell would a father not invite their child to his wedding?
it could be a multitude of reasons, especially when you look at how this is shaping up. So let's kind of unpack this one by one. When you ask that question in the group, the first thing that came to my mind, was maybe he has some questions about the paternity of whether or not the child is his. Could be that angle. Could be the angle that she might create unwanted intrusions and disruptions with the wedding. And as most people believe, I don't know if this is true or not for women. That wedding day is their is their grand entrance onto the stage. And the social setting of acceptance for her into another man's life. So there's that, and then there's some other things that other people mentioned as well. So I mean, it's it's difficult to really say why a man would actually do this. But if he's like me, he values peace of mind over anything, and that includes the way his daughter would feel. And if his daughter, is questioning whether or not the wife is intelligent enough or the person for his father, I believe he would be wise to not do the thing to invite her. Now, the only thing I would question what the father did is sharing it on social media. You do that after the fact. And this is why I always tell people, make sure you keep your personal affairs your personal affairs. I understand people, they want to share their blessings, if you will, with people, and I'm not against that. But social media is let's face it, it's not the most tactful way to do things. Sometimes it really leads to more chaos, more dissension, and more disharmony among us than it does unity. And I always tell people, when you start putting that type of stuff out there into the universe and into the world, it's gonna come back at you. And how it comes back at you, you're gonna have to be able to handle it. And you know, we don't know if he's built to handle it, and he's gonna have to handle it, or it's going to destroy it. It's certainly, at the very least, pardon me, disrupt his marriage. So, maybe he's ready for that smoke. He's got some barbecue sauce and some nice tenderized ribs and some sausages, burgers, and chicken. But he's gonna have to deal with that. And heaven forbid, if they're all living under one roof, it's gonna really be murky and tumultuous. So I don't know if that's something that I would have handled like that, but that's what he did. So that's a decision ultimately he's gonna have to live with.
Well, it's interesting that I post in different groups, and at first I thought it would be lopsided, and people would say that Timothy was totally wrong. But a lot of people were saying, man, it depends. If that daughter is drama, or she's listening to her mother who's creating drama, then he did right just to have peace with him and his wife, and he'll just have to deal with his daughter later. So it was different perspectives. But I have Anita and Latoya in here, so I want to kind of get their feedback on this subject before we go on any further. So Anita, you were here first. What's your take on that?
Hello?
I hear you.
Oh, okay. Hi,
Hello.
everybody. Personally, I would be very hurt and offended if my dad didn't invite me to his wedding. I don't know why I can't think of a good enough reason why. Well, I can, but not in my case because I'm his angel, of course. But I was thinking maybe because if he cheated on the daughter's mother with this fiance, that might cause a little bit of you know, dissension, anger. So he might not want to deal with that.
Okay. All right. Frolic T was good.
I think she's muted. Yeah, she's muted.
You're muted.
All right, I'm fine. And honestly, this actually happened in my real life. My dad got married, and I didn't even know my father was dating. And I was in college at the time. Well, no, I'm lying. I think I might have been in high school when he actually got married. I didn't find out about his wife until she called me in college and left a message on my voicemail inviting me to a family event at a church. So, newsflash, I called my mom, was like, hey, somebody just left a message on my answering machine saying that she was my dad's wife. And it's just silence on the phone. And I said, well, when were you going to tell me if my dad got married? And she was like, I thought it would be best if he told you. And I said, well, my dad never tells me anything. So thank you for, letting me know.
So how did
Didn't
that?
feel nice because I'm not a dramatic person. I mean, I wish my parents the best. They separated when I was a kid, and did their version of co-parenting, and it is what it is. I've never had a problem with my dad until that day.
So after that, did it impact your relationship with your dad?
No, because we really didn't have much of a relationship to begin with. My dad was kind of in and out of my life. When he wanted to be a dad, he was around. When he didn't want to be a dad, we didn't see him, didn't hear from him. So, I mean, to me, I was like, you could at least invite me. If I show up or not, I don't think it would really matter, because it never really mattered when I attended family events before. So it was just more or less like, wow, you got married, you had everybody in your family there but your biological children. There's 3 of us, so none of us showed up. Like, none of us got an invite. I was just like, oh, okay, interesting. But then the funny thing is, when I got married, it was just, my husband, his parents, my mom, one of my sisters, or whatever. We just did it on a whim when my mom came to visit. And when my dad found out I got married, he's like, oh, you didn't invite me to your wedding? I said, you didn't invite me to yours, so don't make a big deal out of this. I didn't make a big deal, and you didn't invite me to your wedding, and you had a whole big wedding in the church and everything. So, I mean, don't make an issue out of it. I didn't make an issue out of yours. I don't even think about it. It's just interesting to see the topic. It's like, oh, yeah.
Well, and I think for most, a lot of it is about show and tell for many, but maybe that's the thing. Maybe they had a inclusive type of environment where maybe it was just them there, and they went about it, handled their business, didn't want to make a big fuss.
Nope, most definitely was not. It was a big event that she had, and I was just like, oh, no, that's nice. Congrats, I guess. I mean,
well, I was actually speaking like on this situation. So you saying your dad had a big event and he just didn't invite you. That's a lot to that.
I mean, I think in this situation, it might not just be the daughter that he's probably hiding from.
And I think that's what Anita was alluding to with her comment.
And what was that comment again?
The infidelity. Because if let's look at it, let's take that angle and let's run with it. If her mother and him were married and there was infidelity on his behalf, and that infidelity broke up that marriage, I believe the daughter would be well within her right to have some animus towards the woman involved. And I would never, and I always tell people, we have to make allowances for people. If we want people to make allowances for the way that we feel, that we, by right, or at least by fiat, should make allowances for the way that another individual feels. And when we don't do that, we don't allow for people to be human. And that's dangerous, because now we're not allowing for the full spectrum of a person to exist. We're telling them, in essence, that, look, you can be mad about certain things, but this is something that you don't have a right to be mad about. And I think that's patently unfair. You're making a person essentially devoid of emotions when you say so, because you say so. And even in a parent-child situation where generally what the parent says goes. I don't have a problem with a parent enforcing boundaries, maintaining control and dictating what a child does and doesn't do. But a child's feelings should be at the very least understood. Now, I don't know whether a question was asked, conversation took place or not, but if there was some infidelity and she was the one that was in the crosshairs of it, I could understand the daughter's angst, and I as a father, I would generally accept it. I would have to sit there and take that angst on it and understand why it is. And so with the wife, and that, like I said prior, that's something that they would have to deal with. So I hope they got a lot of barbecue sauce and a lot of meat, because we know, that a female scorned, yeah, boy, she's gonna be laying fire.
Well, let me, and I guess I had skipped that part. Let me read the actual scenario. And I guess people were asking now the group how old was the daughter, and I didn't go back and check my facts, but I guess she was actually 17. So 17-year-old Kendra finds out through Facebook that her father Tim is getting married without her knowing about it. Kendra currently lives in Los Angeles, and dad lives in Cleveland. Kendra is very upset because she asked her dad about being in a relationship and her dad denied it. Kendra feels that her dad is wrong and his fiance was stupid because her dad didn't have the decency to mention his wife to be to her. Do you think Kendra is wrong for how she felt? What are your views regarding her dad, and how do you think the fiance should feel? So we got some, interesting dynamics that they live across the country from each other. So I think if I recall this situation, I think him and Kendra mother was pretty much done. She went her separate ways, and he was living in another state. So I don't know how much that played a factor in him just saying, "Listen." See, we don't know in these situations. It could be his future wife to be. He could have been in a bad spot. She could have lifted him up from that spot so he could be like, "Listen, I want this day to be perfect." She built me back up. Unfortunately, some people may not want to hear that, but sometimes in relationships, you get with someone, and instead of us being at our greatest height or greatest strength, sometimes people get built up. And maybe that was the case with him. And he said, "I'm not jeopardizing anything for this. I owe this to this woman for being there for me. So I know how my daughter is." Remember, KYP, know your personnel. And I know she's going to come here. She's going to have a stink attitude the whole time. And I'm just not going to deal with it. I don't want anything to ruin this. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. And sometimes, like I said, as adults, some parents are from the old school, like, "Oh, I don't got to tell you anything, whatever. You answer to me." Where now you find people like, "Well, nah, I want them to be informed. When they question me something, I'm always direct and honest with them." And so you have a lot of people stepping out, probably from the way they were actually raised and taught. So again, like I said, always some different dynamics.
And it's funny. It's funny you make that statement. I posted about this probably about a half an hour ago. We have to prepare our children, boys and girls, for the world that they are going to inherit. And we often hear the slogan that knowledge is power, which is actually erroneous. Applied knowledge is power. And if a student or anyone for that matter doesn't have a certain subset of knowledge, they can't use it. And it makes them vulnerable. It makes them too vulnerable to manipulation, to being used, abused, or misused. And some people will say, what's the difference between being used and misused? We all should want to be used. And when I say that, let me explain. The adage goes, if you're not useful to somebody, you're not useful at all. Everybody has a particular ability or skill that someone else can utilize. They may not be able to do. So you become useful to them. To be misused is to have somebody take that skill set and use it without you actually knowing that you're being used for that purpose. So we often, talk about the deceits in relationships between peers or whatever the case is. Well, I didn't know that's what they were doing, and you won't know about it until somebody told you. Oh, that's what they do. Yeah, they did that to me. So now that you have an individual running around in a group of people who don't know how this individual functions, now this individual's ran through this crew or this group of people. And all of a sudden now this group of people is turned against them. And this is where you start to get the undertow and the outcropping of people in a certain demographic saying, don't trust him, don't trust her, she ain't shit, he ain't shit, or all he is a user, all he is an abuser, or all she does is just use you for this or that. And then you start to see this. So when you start to arm people with this, they know what to look out for. So they don't fall into that trap. They can just say, nah, man, you know what? I saw the red flags. I seen this before. I'm out. You go run that game on somebody else, but I'm not your boo boo. You might fool them other people out there, but I'm not that individual. And it irks a lot of people because they can't pull a wool over your eyes. So we need to raise our kids so they're not being taken advantage of. And this is in that vein. The daughter might be like, hey, look, I don't like her. And anytime I can be a thorn in her ass, I can be a thorn in your ass, I'm gonna be a thorn in your ass. And like I said, he has to be ready for that smoke. She has to be ready for that smoke. And unless when this child graduates high school, they plan on sending her to her mother, or she's going to live on her own, and they're going to financially support her.
All right. Well, let me add the. We already know what the issue was, so let me add some of the perspectives that when this scenario originally came out, it said fiance and daughter should both feel left out on this very important day. They also said you can't force someone to be in your life and do what they are supposed to do. Father is disrespectful and apathetic to the feelings of his daughter. Kendra is okay to be upset, but she has to understand that her father can live his life how he wants. And then finally, father should have treated his daughter with some value, considering she is his only child. Now, some of the background knowledge. Needless to say, how Kendra was treated, she decided not to attend the wedding because she did not feel like she was wanted. Some actions that could have came out of this. Kendra reaction was age appropriate, and I think her dad went about this whole thing completely wrong, and I am not sure why he could not be honest. And some consequences. Kendra will have resentment toward her dad and will definitely lack respect for her stepmom because she did not have the decency to promote for the presence of Kendra being at the wedding. Am I wrong for thinking that Kendra should have been in the wedding? So that pretty much sums that up.
Tough, man. That all I can say is tough. We it's difficult to say. It really is. I don't. It's not a situation that I'll ever have to face. So I don't. I can't say what I would do or what I have done because simply put, I don't have any kids and I haven't been married. And so if I do get married, however I decide to run that run that wedding, or we decide to run that wedding, we only have to be accountable to ourselves. So if we decide to go to Vegas and do shotgun, no, we don't have to explain that to anybody else. We just say, hey, this is what we decided to do. But when you have kids, ex-wives, potential stepchildren, unfortunately, for better for worse, it would seem to be the humane thing to do and bring them together, because eventually you're going to get together anyway at some point in time, whether it's birthdays, holidays, or unforeseen circumstances, and you don't want that to explode then. So you want to minimize any potential damage that may come about before it actually happens.
Ladies, anything?
I agree with that. Oh, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with her, except for, um, yeah, you can run your wedding how you want, but, you know, if children are part of the family and they're always going to be part of the family. So if you don't inform them or include them, they're going to feel some kind of way forever about that, and it's going to cost them some resentment. If my dad didn't tell me he was getting married and he just went off to Vegas with her, I would be pissed off as hell and I would resent her. But again, that's the only dad I have, so it would be difficult to deal with. I think Kendra, she's being mad. Be mad. Because I don't think that's right. If you're part of the family, you're part of the family. You're going to be part of the family at family gatherings, birthdays, funerals, everything.
And let me just throw this out there. What if he, and I'm not saying in this situation what if he was a toxic dad? And let me talk about some of the characteristics of that. Like he's disrespectful. In which you can see, I mean, if you wanna spin it that way, you could say, well, you could think that okay, he really didn't give a damn. So she asked him about it. Are you in a relationship? And he denied it. So you may view him as toxic or disrespectful. He's disrespectful. He gives you the silent treatment. There's some fathers, as a child, you could act like you're mad and all that, and y'all could just be at a standoff. Like, man, we ain't talked in months. And they don't care. They give no ground. You give no ground, and of course, people are gonna say, "Well, as the adult, you should, be the one that kind of put your stubbornness to the side." But there's some people just they don't care. You could be at a standoff. He screams threats, and he'll tell you, "Shit, keep on running your mouth. You won't get shit from me," or whatever the case is, and be willing to cut you off. Now, depending on his status, what if he's someone that's well off and he uses those threats and he knows that you need him? You may be a college student and well, he's supposed to pay my tuition. Well, I know he puts money in my account on a weekly basis. Say what?
There are ways around that. That's not an excuse to take nobody's shit.
Okay, we'll talk about more about that. Let me just go there. It could be somebody who has substance misuse issues that when he drinks or smokes or whatever, then he becomes someone else pretty much. He doesn't want you to grow up. And this may not be in that particular situations. There's some dads that just don't want to see their little girls grow up. So they're controlling. They don't like who you talk to. You need their approval. If you find one thing wrong with the guy that you're dating or your friends, he has something to say. He has violent outbursts. He provides conditional love, meaning when you show favor to him and you put him on a pedestal, then everything is fine. You can get whatever you want. But as soon as you buck the system, then you ain't getting shit. Don't ask me for nothing when you go against him. He inspires fear. He's narcissistic. He's aloof and he's controlling. So, hey, there's some dads that's their characteristics. It doesn't even matter. Like they feel they dance to the beat of their own drum. All right, yeah, I can go. I was talking for a minute.
Well,
go ahead, Anita.
In that case, I think the daughter would need some counseling to learn how to deal with that, because that's difficult. I mean, from my perspective, that would be a difficult thing to deal with. That's your only father, and me and my father didn't always see eye to eye on everything or have the best relationship, but we do now that I'm older. But I used to try to, make excuses for him. Like, I'm not pretty enough for him to spend time with me. I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not a boy. But then it takes a lot to disconnect from feeling self-conscious. Like, why doesn't my dad want me? Why doesn't he want to spend time with me? Why isn't he telling me he's getting married? So I think she would have to have some counseling to learn how to deal with those issues effectively, so it doesn't affect the rest of her life and relationships with other guys. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense, and it makes a world of sense when a lot of times, people say many many young ladies are attracted to someone who has features or maybe have behaviors like their dad, good, bad, or
Hmm.
indifferent, and that may end up being the guy that you end up dealing with. So
You're right
all of
about
this
that.
stuff,
Because
all
that's
this
what
stuff
we're
is
used
connected.
to.
And you know
Hmm.
what? There's a couple hidden gems in there that I think people may not be aware of. So let me kind of flush that out. When children, they deal with a particular parent who is abusive, for whatever reason, it tends to cloud their judgment and it impacts who they deal with in the future in terms of their mate selection. We often hear that whatever the parent is, especially if it's bad, they go the opposite way. It's almost like a magnet, two magnets come together, they'll repel each other and they'll come across somebody and they'll be like, you know what, you remind me of my father. No, thank you. And a guy that has absolutely no clue or a female that has no clue if the genders are reversed, they'll say, I don't get it. What do I do that's so bad that reminds you of a father? Well, he's controlling, he's manipulative, he's abusive. And it may not be that the individual is actually that way, but they exhibited some portion of the characteristic that triggers a memory, and automatically a defense barrier comes up, and they just want to get away from that
Hmm.
individual. That individual could be the most well-meaning person in the planet. They just happen to share a certain characteristic, whether it's they like the same beer, they like the same hard liquor, they wear certain clothing, they wear a certain scent. Any of those things can be triggers for an individual to say, you know what, thank you, but no thank you.
But hold
And
on,
the other thing,
what about the your signs? Because a lot of people believe, oh, my dad was a Gemini, and you're a Gemini. Oh no, I don't do Geminis and all this stuff. Does people really believe that crap?
well, there's a lot of people that
Some
are that. Don't get me wrong. I love astrology. I want to be sure that I'm not confusing people when I say astrology, not astronomy, because astronomy is the study of the planets, the stars. Astrology is the study of astrological science. I don't want to call them the occult
Zodiac
science.
signs.
Yeah, zodiac signs and the like. So there's a lot of people that lean heavily on that, and I'm not against that. I think I'm kind of fascinated with it at times. And I think this is just my personal thoughts. I think a lot of when we're born happens to be under certain conditions that lead to characteristics being born into that child. When I say born into that child, I'm talking about the circumstances under which we were born. So let's take kids that are born right now, kids that have been born during this pandemic. They're going to grow up with a certain viewpoint of certain things, good, bad, or indifferent. The same way that teenagers are going to have a certain um, um, change of thought, because now they'll say with their kids, let's advance this about 20 years. Let's say this generation that's graduated high school in this last year have their own kids, and their kids are graduating high school, and they're upset that they can't get certain things for their graduation or for their prom. And you'll have the parents turn around and say, you should be lucky, you should be thankful that you have a prom, that you had a graduation. Look at the mother or the father and they'll say, well, what the hell are you talking about? Because I didn't have one. So you have all those different type of circumstances playing roles into how people do things, into what people will say and how people will behave and what they'll do, and more importantly, what they won't do. So a situation such as this, one parent could have had, the father could have had a situation where he saw a sibling in a similar circulation, a similar circumstance come and be disruptive to their parents' wedding, they could just say, you know what? I'm not going to have that. I don't care how they feel. I don't care what they want. I'm not going to have my wedding day ruined by a petulant, misbehaving child. So we don't know. Go ahead, David.
I was going to say, the day a child of mine come to my wedding and cut a damn fool, they ass is grass and I'm the damn lawnmower, and they mama's ass is grass and I'm the damn lawnmower. I'm serious, whatever. It won't be none of that. And they'll know. They'll know. Right.
And that's what I mean. So fathers want to avoid that. Like I said, men, we are about peace. And if we have to go through extreme measures to keep the peace, some men are willing to do that. They'll bite the bullet later. A lot of men don't have a problem with that. Just say, you know what? I know I'm gonna catch hell. I know when I get home, I'm gonna have to hear her mouth. But you know what? Right now, I'm out drinking with the fellas. I'm feeling good. I'll deal with the hell when I get home. And that's the situation that we could potentially be amongst with the scenario. So it's hard to say what a man should have done. I know how the women feel, you know, well, that's my father, I should be included. But what if the daughter is actually toxic to him? What if she doesn't like the fact that he stepped out and just left her and her mother destitute? She's looking, you know what?
Then I don't think she would want to be included in the wedding.
Pretty much. If it's like that, then she's not going to care. She's not going to give a shit at all.
No. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this. We know as kids when our parents are vulnerable. So we know when to.
But if you're a halfway decent parent, they don't.
I'm not. See, we're going somewhere I'm not going.
All I'm saying is you can't say that kids know their parents' vulnerabilities because most parents do their best to make sure kids can't do shit like that against them.
Let me lay it out. What I'm saying is this: as kids, we know the opportune time to act up to get attention. Like I said, I'm not minimizing how the child feels. I'm just simply saying that if the child wishes to be a disruption, where is there the best opportunity for a child to be a disruption? In public, at an event or forum where you are going to do the most damage. So if the father is or has been hiding the fact that he's had a child from everybody else, and that child shows up, well, people are going to say, well, why is she acting like this? And they're going to start looking at the father, and they're going to say, is this how you treat your children? Well, I don't want to be associated with you. I don't want to be around you. And just imagine if the wedding is full of potential business clients or business partners. She could potentially cost them a lot of money. These are all the type of things that could go into a decision like this.
That sounds really selfish, but that's how most men are.
Whether you want to call a man selfish or not, but this leads to what David was saying when he said he will cut off the financial spigot. A lot of women will cut off their nose to spite their face because they would rather be heard than be
Say
right.
women, because a smart woman will never cut off her nose to spite her face.
Wait a minute. Did you just say that's how men are?
But it's true though.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Here we go.
Correct me if I am wrong.
He's thinking about his clients. He's thinking about the
correct me if I am wrong.
So you're thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about the feelings of your child when you're making.
Correct me if I am wrong.
You
did you not just say that's how men are?
A child having a tantrum. What would you expect?
I'm not moving until you correct me if I'm wrong. Did you just not say that's how men are?
Yes, I'm most definitely. I'm like you. I own up to what I say. I don't pretend that I didn't say something.
But you're running from it because you want to use that sword on one hand, but you don't want somebody to use it against you because it offends you. And this is what I talk about.
What are you
If you're
talking
not
about?
going to
Offended
allow
about
for,
what? Exactly.
if you're not going to allow for an argument to be made, then don't make that argument. Because I'm not going to stand in the way of the argument. I'm going to use the argument against you.
Good luck.
Good luck. I've already done it because you're already talking about this and this. Like I said, if he is the provider, it will behoove him to keep that intact so they can continue to live the lifestyle, so he can continue to pay for her education, so he can continue, if he is, to pay child support. A lot of people don't care. They would rather be disruptive and say, you know what, I don't care how I live, how I eat. If I have the opportunity to make his life miserable, I'm going to make his life miserable. And those are the decisions that he has to weigh. And like I said, he will have to deal with that later.
So how old is his daughter? 16?
17.
17.
17? So we're not talking about like a 10-year-old that is gonna throw a temper tantrum on the floor and be acting crazy. So I'm saying if
not to cut you off, Anita, I've seen grown women throw temper tantrums in public because they didn't get their way. I'm talking grown women.
Really?
I have. Keep in mind, I work with the public. I've done security. I've seen grown women throw drinks in men's faces because something didn't go the way they wanted to. We've had to physically restrain women from doing this type of thing. I kid you not. I was working at a restaurant late one night.
I assure you that it's a small percentage of women.
Couple came in. She was upset at something the guy said or did. She took a steak with A1 steak sauce and threw it at this guy sitting in the corner. The guy just sitting there like, damn. And I felt bad for the guy. And you know what? They came back 2 weeks and she did the same thing again. I tell you, people behave in a lot of odd situations when they are upset. It's what it is. Men do the same thing. We've seen men strike their women because they did something that he didn't like. It's across the spectrum. I've stepped in on certain occasions where I saw a guy literally try and pull his girlfriend out of the restaurant by her hair. And I was like, yo, man, don't do that. Even though I don't step into domestics, but I'm not going to allow a woman to be mistreated in public like that. I'm like, dude, if that's how your relationship is, cool. But take that home, man. At least allow her to maintain her dignity. Because a lot of people don't understand. There's a lot of things that a lot of people will tolerate. There's a lot of things that a lot of people condone, put up with, make excuse away. But when you start to take away their dignity, you essentially rob them of their humanity. And I wish people would really understand how important that is to an individual person. When you take a person's dignity away, you essentially isolate them and you are putting them in the worst physical, mental state that they could possibly exist in, and then you're pointing and then you're laughing at them. There's nothing worse than being naked in front of the world and being mocked. I assure you, nobody wants to face that, but we see it often. And because we don't recognize what's going on, we just say, okay, you know what, whatever. Heaven forbid if it's a kid. So we don't know. Go ahead, Dave.
Let me piggyback on Brolic T when you said men are selfish, and Herb made up the point that the party could be a lot of potential people that the father networks with, potential contracts or whatever the case is, potential life-changing finances or whatever the case is. And you made the comment, you said that men are selfish and, he should put his, the need of his child, I guess, prioritize that and put that first. I want you to elaborate a little more on that.
My thing is this: if he's a halfway decent father, he shouldn't be worried about whether his child is going to have a tantrum or anything. But if he's, like y'all described, like you described, a toxic father who ain't worth shit, then he might have something to worry about. And in that case, then it's probably best that he not invite his child because they don't have that kind of relationship. But based on what I've heard of the story, they had a decent relationship and she was included in everything. And then all of a sudden, his job and everything else is more important than his relationship with his child. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
So she's good enough to come to every other function but this one.
In my opinion, why can't she just at least go to the ceremony and the reception be like invite only because it's an adult reception? Like, wouldn't.
And that would be fair enough. But don't treat this child like she's a damn toy. You take her out and you dust her off and you play with her and you prance her around for all your networking buddies and everything else when it suits you. But then, this is a big event and, I can't predict how she's going to act, because I haven't been around her for a while or because I didn't bother to tell her or I lied about the fact that I'm dating and stuff like that. And you think that it's not going to, she's just going to let it subside or that it's going to be okay. It's not going to be okay. And that's an issue that he as a man should address and say, look, I know I wasn't coming about this, that, and the third or whatever, but, have this conversation with her. If she's 16, she's old enough to understand to a point.
Don't we all kind of pick and choose based on our personnel on who we invite to things? And that's not even look at the child, daughter, mother, son. It could be some of your friends. You can have co-workers. You can
situation you are selective about.
Can I finish? So imagine if it was your friends and you're like, okay, I got this co-worker. She kind of bougie, whatever, but usually we have a good time at her holiday party. And now you don't invite a certain friend. You invite one, but you don't invite the other because once she gets something in her system, she gonna cut a damn fool, guaranteed. You're gonna pick and choose. I'm just saying.
I'm just laughing. I'm just laughing real hard because that's not me, but it does happen.
Yeah, that does happen, but that's not me. Friends.
There was a situation that somebody's parent passed away, and the kid who was 40 something came and was drunk and belligerent and was going to get kicked out of the wake. And I'm not laughing because it's a sad situation, but I'm laughing because that actually did happen. So I would have to second guess if I was going to invite her.
Yeah, it could even be. It could even be. It could be a parent. You could say, "Man, I want to invite my mother here, but she might do something to embarrass me, or she might not have no filters, and she might start running her mouth and saying this and that. So this is not the place, whatever. So in this situation, Dad could say, I know how my daughter is. I know how Kendra is. I know she's not going to be compliant to this. She's going to want to dance to the beat of her old drum. I really don't want to start off my marriage with my wife to be, because let's be honest, most of the time when you go through those ceremonies, it's all about the women, whatever. Men, I ain't gonna say not. Again, no absolutes, because there are some men like, oh, I had the greatest wedding day and all of that stuff, but it's mostly probably for the women, and they want it to be perfect. They've been dreaming about this since they was playing with Ken and Barbie dolls and all that stuff, so they want the perfect situation. So things like this can happen. So certain situations, certain events, you kind of pick and choose, like, really, do I want this person to be there? Or this person may be better suited for this situation. We all do that. That's why we had choices.
Yeah, and I'm gonna throw this little curveball in there. Let's take this example and let's say it's a mixed. I can't speak. A mixed ethnicity wedding where he happens to be Native Black American and she happens to be Hispanic or Caucasian, and the daughter, who has been raised to be race loyal, doesn't like it. That could be a reason why he potentially hit it, because he doesn't want to offend the mother and he doesn't want to draw the ire of the daughter. We're starting to
Regardless if he hit it or
Regardless of who he marries, if her and her dad have a strong relationship, she's going to support his decision. Like, if you have a strong relationship with your parent, you support their decision, whether you agree with it or not. If you don't, then that's another story.
Now I'm going to piggyback.
I can't agree with
I'm going to
every
give you.
decision.
I'm going to give you credit for that. If you have that relationship with the parent and you don't want to disappoint them, then you're going to get in line and say, you know what, I was upset about it, but I know I'm not going to disappoint my dad or whatever, because he does too much for me. He's always been there for me. So I just had to bite the bullet because of that fact. So that can be the case in certain situations.
I don't.
And regardless of how it does play out at the wedding, I mean, everybody's going to have to deal with the fact that they're married, and like everybody's going to have to deal with everybody after the fact anyway. So why can't they all just sit down before the wedding and hash it out or figure it out or talk about it, communicate, have like 6 family counselings, something to make it go a little smoother.
Well, and that's what I was alluding to earlier is is if they're not all staying under the same roof, it probably won't matter as much as if they were. So like I said, let's say the daughter is living with the mother. The father's probably, and I strongly preface, probably isn't as married to the feelings of the daughter in the way that he would be if she was staying with him. So this is what Brala T is talking about when she's talking about what kind of father he is. That's not for me to question what kind of father he is. That's not my position. I'm not here to do that. I'm just here to talk about the nuts and bolts. So let's say he's not wedded to how she feels, and he's just saying, okay, you know what? She's gonna be upset, but I don't have to deal with her being upset until she comes around on holidays, maybe a birthday, maybe a special occasion. I'll deal with it then. Some guys will put off a problem, put it off until they actually have to deal with it. So he's just like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna put this on Facebook so my people will know what I'm doing, and whatever else happens. I don't care. It's my life. I get to live as I want to it, and ain't nobody gonna tell me what to do because I'm king shit. So you have some guys out there that run their life like that.
And that's exactly my point.
You're right, and that's not the best way to run things because it snowballs.
You're gonna get married.
But and this is what I want people to understand. Some people don't care.
I mean, it's obvious he don't care.
It's not for me to say whether he does.
It's very clear.
I make definitive statements about the circumstances and the situation regarding this. I don't know enough. This is why I'm saying he probably doesn't. But ultimately, most guys will put themselves first when it comes to certain things. And like I said, you disrupt a guy's peace of mind, and if he thinks you'll do it, he's going to say, you know what? I'm not taking that risk. Guys are risk adverse. Women are not so much. Women will do things that could potentially lead them in certain situations. Then they'll say, okay, you know what? This wasn't a good idea. Well, guys will say, no, that don't even sound like a good idea. I'm not even going to try that. You got to be out your mother ever loving mind to think I'm going to try something like that. And they'll say, no way. This is that situation. He's already played it out. And he's just saying, you know what? I don't think so. I'll deal with it later. And that's not to say he made the correct decision. He potentially made the correct decision for himself, the circumstances, and the situation. So he's just like, you know what? I'll let her mother deal with it. Her mother's been dealing with it for X amount of years. I'll let her mother continue to deal with it. And this is where,
And that's
people always
selfish.
say, he very well may be.
Exactly what I said. A selfish decision, like I said.
I don't discount that. He very well may be the most selfish father on the planet. But he does have a right to be selfish. And I think that rubs people the wrong way. They say, well, that's not a way to live. For who?
Selfish. I said it was
It does.
selfish.
I'm not saying anyone has. I'm just saying there are some people who will say it's selfish, and I'm just simply saying that everyone has a right to be selfish. And anyone that says that a person doesn't have a right to be selfish is negating that person's ability to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to withdraw. I'm going to take care of me. I need some me time. I need to sit down, unwind. I need to go over there. I may need to have a pity party. I may need to cry. I may need to get toe up just for a night and not care
I
about
may
nothing.
need to have a glass of wine
It happens. So for us to
and
not
some soup.
allow, go ahead, Anita.
So, when has soup and wine been an item?
I know.
But for us to not allow an individual to have a moment to themselves, for me, is worse than being selfish, because now you're being dictatorial, and you're telling an individual, and you're telling to an individual that no, you don't have the right to do that. So
No,
who's in the
we're
worst?
suggesting they deal with it a little differently to have a better and positive outcome.
But what if the outcome is what they want?
What I would
Is
like
for
to know
to be
is,
dysfunctional forever,
Just for that
to
day.
have that resentment forever.
But that's my point. We're operating in the premise that this individual doesn't want that situation to exist in the way that it does. Like I said, if that individual doesn't have to deal with her on a daily basis, then what do they care? That's a problem that's 1,500 miles away. They don't have to hear about it until that individual comes around, or until that individual calls. And if they don't want to field the call, they don't field the call.
And it's going to affect
Well,
that
it's
daughter
willing-
for the rest of her
oh.
life.
so he's willing to damage his possibly good relationship with his child for the sake of his own peace of mind. I don't know.
Sure. Absolutely.
If I
we
was
see
his
it all the
fiance,
time.
I'd be asking a lot of questions, like why, like what.
I mean,
If I was his fiance, I'd be asking a lot of questions.
The question I would like to know is who exactly is in this wedding? Is it she's not invited because maybe Kendra has kids and her kids are in the wedding and she's not in the wedding? Like what's the big deal? What is he hiding? Because
Go ahead.
why lie about being in a relationship? So I mean, is it a situation where he met Kendra, she has kids, and he's playing, stepdad to her kids, and he doesn't be bothered with his own kid? And now they're having this wedding, and her children are probably in the wedding, and then his daughter's not in the wedding. I mean, I would have to wonder, because it sounds like there's more to the story than just a simple, I'm a grown man, I met this woman, and we getting married, and hell with my kid.
Of course, I don't have all the details. This was given to me that someone's child found out that their dad was getting married based on Facebook notifications, where people tag you in, and that's how she found out. Kendra is actually the daughter, and so she found out that her dad was getting married. I don't know all the other details, but you see how this creates lots of different conversations comes out of this. What we don't know how the end result would be on why he decided to do what he did. We can look at it as a situation where, okay, I think one of y'all mentioned I left that situation. It was rocky with I think maybe Herb brought it up. I left that situation with Kendra and her mom, and it was rocky. Now I finally moved on. I found some happiness, and this is the person I want to be with because I sucked in all of my other relationships. Now I think this is the
Probably
right
because he
thing
was
to
selfish.
do. Or whatever the case
I
is.
still
So
don't
now
understand why his own child is not in. Like, what was the purpose in not telling his child that he was getting married
You know what? Let me
or
If I
lying
found
about
out that, I would have to call my dad and
I
and
let me
still
ask
don't
him all
get
the
what was
questions.
the point in lying about being in a relationship, and then you turn around and you post that you're getting married on Facebook, and your child finds out about it. Like, why even lie in the beginning? If you're dating somebody, you're dating somebody. You're no longer with your child's mother. You're no longer with your mother. So,
Everybody's gonna find out eventually anyway.
well,
and I
maybe
mean, why hide? Why hide? Why lie?
let me throw this in there. So people could have a different perspective with the same situation. Let's say her father is deployed overseas, he's in the military. He finds a wife in a foreign country and he doesn't communicate this to anyone. He's coming back home with this new wife, doesn't want to deal with the conflict of him having been deployed for the last 10 years. So he posted on social media. So everybody knows. He comes back home with his new wife. Nobody has seen her. The family hasn't met her. The only people that were at the wedding were the people that were on the base or whatever the case was, wherever they held the wedding at. Could have been
Nobody
her family.
get mad over a situation like that. But if you're in the same country, there's no excuse.
But that's my point. He's deployed overseas. They're not in the same country. So he can't afford to fly her over just so she can be in the wedding.
I won't say all that, but all right.
I'm just simply saying we don't know how it all unfolds. To say that an individual should do this, or pardon?
It can be done. You just have to fill out the paperwork.
Well, no, but I'm just simply saying, if this is how an individual chooses to handle the situation, why are we not accepting of how they handle the situation, regardless of how we feel about it? This is what this is why I always say it helps to divorce your feelings from a situation so you can just look at the situation as the situation is. Because once we start putting feelings into a situation, I'm not saying that's wrong, it just clouds our judgment. This is why they always tell you don't mix family and business. This is why they don't let physicians operate on their loved ones, because emotions cloud your judgment. So you're not making you're not making decisions based on clear thinking. You're making emotions based on clouded judgment. And we all know that once we start drinking, we become intoxicated. We don't always make the best decisions. Emotions behave in almost the same way as an intoxicated person. This is why they say, don't make rash decisions while you're drinking. Don't do this while you're drinking. Don't do this while you're emotionally compromised, because you'll come back and look at that decision and say, you know what? If I'd have had a clearer head, I would have made a different decision. Not necessarily better, but a different decision, which would have probably led to a better outcome.
What if he simply said, I know damn well if I tell Kendra, yeah, daddy's getting married, daddy's in love, he found the right one, and he knows she's gonna go back and tell her mother, and then the mother's gonna call with all this smoke. Oh, I've been wanting you to marry me for years. Oh, now all of a sudden, what makes her better than me? I did this, I did that. Who wants all that leading up to it? Who wants all that leading up to it? So he lied and told her, "No, I'm not." And I ain't trying to rationalize it like that, make it better. But I'm just saying, I'm trying to live in the character of him. And he said, "You know what? I'm just going to nah, I ain't in no relationship." And because his ultimate goal is for that day to happen, him to make it happen. They get married, and for whatever reason he married her, hopefully it was love or whatever the case is, and they run off into the sunset. But he knows if he told Kendra, and she like, yeah, dad called me and he was talking about he was all in love and this and that. Dad found the right one, and they causing mayhem. You don't think that make a difference? I know you know it make a difference, Latoya. I see you about
Everybody's
to.
gonna
No,
find
it
out
does not make a
anyway.
difference. It does not
Everybody's
make
gonna
a
find out
difference.
anyway after the fact. So
Look,
why not
at the
just
end of
make
the
it
day,
easier?
right is right and wrong is wrong. Now, if she has that kind of mother that when he says, "Oh, I met somebody else," she gonna go batshit crazy. Well, it's about knowing your personnel. You had to know a long time ago that she was batshit crazy. You went and had a baby with her and tied yourself to her for the rest of your life. These are the choices that you made. Isn't that what y'all always saying? Know your personnel and make sure that you are very clear about what you want and all that stuff. So
Exactly.
he had to know a long time ago that her mama was batshit crazy and he had a child with her and he tied himself to her for the rest of his life. So that has no bearing on the situation between him and his daughter, because at the end of the day, if she asked, he should have been honest and he should have told her, not let her find out on Facebook. And it's not even an emotional thing for me. It's just a right or wrong thing. And that just was the wrong thing to do. That was not the way that she should have found out. He could have at least called her and said, "Look, I got to be honest with you. I have been seeing somebody and I've asked her to marry me. I'm sorry that I lied to you, but I wasn't sure how you would take it. And, before this goes any further, I want you to know." Then let her have her moment, go crazy or whatever it is she gonna do, because of course she's probably gonna be in her feelings. Or why you tell me now? Because what? Why tell me now? And all those things. Just let her have that moment. But for her to just find out on Facebook, that's not right. That's not right. It's just not. And there's
Yeah,
nothing that you can say that's gonna excuse that. Her mama is one of those. You marrying this lady is not gonna make her mama any less dramatic. She's not gonna be any less dramatic once you get married. That's not gonna change anything.
It
All right,
will
let me
change.
let me close this.
I'll
Go ahead,
say
It could change things if she's off the books once Kendra graduates from high school and she turns 18 and you say it's over with. Communication done. we can
she
talk at
gotta
our
go to
will.
college. He's still gotta pay child
No,
support.
no, 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 nope, nope, nope,
Yeah.
nope. It only goes to high
Actually,
school. It goes to high school.
Actually,
That's
it
only
can
in
carry over
certain
into
states.
college, and that's if you're in arrears. If you are in arrears, it can carry through college.
Yeah, and only in certain states. But let me float this out there.
Exactly. That's by state, but don't say that it can. It most certainly can. It all depends on what state you're in. Don't get
That's
that
true.
bad
That's
advice.
true. That's true.
It most certainly can. Don't have dudes think, "Oh, when I'm 18, no. If your kid go to college, depending on what state you are, you still on the hook, homie."
Let me float this out there then. Let me float this out there. Let's say, because we've all heard this before, that when people get married, they change. They're not the same person they were when I married them. Let's take that and let's equate that to childbirth. Well, everything changed after we had the child. So what if he didn't know? She's two sheets to the wind. What if she didn't know?
What if who didn't know what?
What if the father didn't know that the mother was going to react in a certain manner, and he just said, "You know what? I can't deal with you. Ever since you've had this child, for whatever reason, you've been acting differently. You've been distant, or every time I do
It's called
something."
postpartum depression, and it lasts up until a child is like 5 years old. That happens.
I'm not giving a medical reason why. I'm just simply saying that let's say that something has changed. So he hasn't been around the daughter as much as he would like to. This is why I don't hold fast to an individual being the same mentally the first day that they meet after you have a child and circumstances or things change. Because we often hear
Well,
that.
things are
Like I said,
supposed to.
pardon?
Things do
I said
change. Your
things are
priorities change once you have a
things are
child.
supposed to change. You grow into the situation. You learn how to accept the situation. My thing is, I might be batshit crazy for a minute. I'll get through it, but let me just be dramatic for a little bit. and then I'll be fine.
And that's my point. Guys don't want to deal with that. For women, it's normal. They'll say, well, I'm just having a moment. Well, what are the guys saying? Well,
Right.
I don't want you to have a moment. This is why I say we have
And
to
that's
allow people-
unreasonable.
Pardon?
That's unreasonable for a guy to say that.
But we hear this all the time. This is why I said we have to allow people to have their moments. But what I'm hearing is he can't have his moment. He has to do this. It's wrong if he does this. See, this is what I keep telling you guys. You want something on one end, but you won't give it on the other end. You're demanding fair treatment, but you won't give fair treatment. Something has to give. So
Well-
either you get something or you don't.
So
Aren't we
wait.
talking about the child?
We're
Are we talking about
about
potential
It don't
still?
sound like we're talking about a child at all anymore.
that go into the decision making. The child is just a symptom of a larger issue. What I'm simply saying is the decision that he has made is for his benefit. The child is just caught up in it because nobody has said anything about the mother not being invited. And this leads back to the
She's the
scenario.
ex. How many people actually invite their exes to their wedding? Not many.
Well, you know what?
Are you talking about his mother or his daughter's
on.
mother? I mean,
Let
daughter's
me
mother
add-
doesn't have to be invited. She's an ex. She's an ex for a reason.
let me add this wrinkle in. This is what we were talking about with the scenario with the graduation. See, now the daughter was able to make the decision, and people were saying the daughter had the right. So if the daughter had the right then, why doesn't the father have the right now? See how this all plays out? Y'all, like I said,
Because-
y'all want it, but you won't give it. There's no balance.
Because
So if
the
the daughter
father
has
is
that-
supposed to be.
So you're right. So supposed
Right.
to be.
He's supposed to be the adult in this situation, but clearly he's not the adult in this
Mhm.
situation by the choices
That's
he's
who?
choosing to make.
Maybe he is the adult because he knows this personnel. Like, I'm gonna smooth it over after the fact. I know how she's
But
going to
after
respond.
the fact, that they no smoothing over.
It is
Maybe
because they
he's
still
not
have a
talking about it.
lifetime.
I mean,
They still have a lifetime.
You don't know that. Things happen.
that would be smoothing up and over for a lifetime.
You know what, David? This
But see,
I'm
No,
going
all I'm saying is he gets married one day and then the next day, God forbid, something happens to the child. What is there to
Yeah.
smooth over?
Well, yeah. If we looking at it like, if we looking at like, if we
He
looking at
departed
like,
the world and now we're on
Yeah.
bad terms. There's no going back from that. So why
so
even
so
create
so
that
so
situation?
so therefore, with that premise, then none of us should ever argue. None of us should ever be upset, whatever, because tomorrow is not promised.
correct.
Exactly. I mean, what is it? It says in the Bible, never to let the sun go down angry at each other.
But it doesn't matter because we do that every day, and that's just
Correct.
something that's put out there.
That's
So
not true. Some people
Really?
actually, so I know a lot of people who don't let the sun go down angry at each other because it serves no purpose.
You said you know a lot of people. You didn't say
Yep.
everyone you know, which is the point. This
Hey,
is what they've been driving
Some
at.
people aren't that mature.
But
Let's be
see,
honest. Some people just aren't mature, and some people are just stubborn. And I know it, but I don't give a fuck about that because I'm in my feelings right now, and my feelings matter more than being logical. And don't say that
Which-
y'all don't know
which-
people that aren't illogical.
which
it's
is
okay
what
for
I
you to
said
feel what you feel.
earlier.
It's what you do with those feelings that matter,
Right.
and that's the
Exactly.
key thing.
It's what you do with those feelings.
But this is what I was saying earlier. People want on one and then they won't get on the other. You want somebody to engage your feelings, but you refuse to engage somebody else's feelings. Why can't the father be in his feelings saying, you know what? I know this is not going to work out. This is not the best course of action. I feel that if I do this, it's going to blow up in my face. But you want somebody to honor her feelings. You can't have it both ways.
She's a child. She is a
it's immaterial. She has the ability to be
She is
disruptive.
a child. At the end of the day, she's still a child.
mhm.
And I'm sorry, but even at 16, they do. I'm telling you, as a parent of a fucking teenager right now, as intelligent as my child is, she still has her days when she gets really fucking emotional. And all of that logic and all that intelligence
go right out the window, and she can get down to the temperament of a damn 5-year-old. So
It's called age appropriate behavior. And
But
if
also,
she ain't 18, her feelings still matter. If
I'm
she
but
was
also,
an adult, I'd be
you
like,
listen,
hey, if he don't want to invite her, by all means, he don't have to, because she's a grown woman.
but also,
She
we
is
have to
not a
prepare.
woman
We
yet.
have to prepare these children for disappointment. That there's
period.
going to be things that don't go your way.
Well,
So that's for the
apparently
mother
she's
out
been
there.
disappointed by her father all her life. Sounds
Pretty
like.
much. Because
But
I
but
mean,
but
shit.
What if the mother drove? What if the mother
So
drove
it
him
ain't
away?
nothing new.
He sound like one of those people. Hey, he's visible when he wants to play dad, and hey, I'm a great dad, and look at me and my daughter, and then
Oh,
when it matters the
he's
most, it's
visible
like,
at
oh,
tax
let me
time
drop
when he
the
wants
ball.
to
It's
play
okay,
in
I'll make it
you
up
something.
know
for her
what?
later.
You know what? I'll throw this name out there. Future. Future didn't have a problem being an absent father until another man stepped in the picture. We see it all the time. Some men are
It's too late, yeah.
irresponsible until they're forced to be responsible. So whether they're held accountable by the government or some other legislative body or by another man stepping in, and the mother saying, this is what I wanted you to be, but you couldn't be that for X, Y, and Z reasons. This is why I always say, pump your brakes on saying whether or not someone was irresponsible, immature. Because like David said, we don't know who drove who away. We don't know if he left. We don't know if she got to the point where she was unbearable for whatever reason. Or they just said, you know what? The best recourse for us is for me to leave the house because it's untenable right now, and for you to keep our daughter. I will send money. You don't have to worry about child support. I will do this. Now, let's say that the daughter has been reared to dislike her father because the mother has painted him as evil. She's had him, she's poisoned. Your dad ain't shit. He ain't never gonna be shit. He never was shit. I should have never had you. I should have aborted you. So let's say all that festers in the daughter's mind. So when the father's thinking about this, he's just like, you know what? Every time I call her, it's a contentious discussion. She says she don't like me. She says my mother always talking bad about you. Why don't you come visit me? And he's just to the point now where he's just like, you know what? I can't win. I'm persona non grata. I'm the big bad. Pardon the term. I'm the big bad wolf. I'm the father that can't do anything. The only thing I was good for was getting your mother pregnant. Do you think you would actually invite her to the wedding?
I don't. Hold on a second.
He could ask her.
No.
If
Do you think
how
he
she.
should invite her to the wedding?
See,
I
you would
think
have
he
met
should
with him.
ask her. At least make her
No,
feel
no, no.
included
He
and
has
try
to
to.
make a
Hold on, I'm
decision.
not even done.
No.
I'm not
Because
even done
you're
talking
answering the
about what
question
I'm
that I didn't
saying.
ask.
All of
I'm
this stuff
saying,
is based on critical thinking outside the box and thinking about different variables on why. If you just look at the surface stuff and say, child, father, he didn't invite her to the wedding, he's wrong, and that's how you draw your conclusion, then you're going to get these results. But if you go deeper and say, damn, maybe it was some other deeper stuff like we're trying to put out there, then that's a different story.
and that's all I'm saying. We don't know for certain what led to him making this decision. All we're trying to do is, like David just said, we're trying to get possible avenues into why he made the decision. We're not condoning or defending the decision. We're just saying this is why he did this. This is what it's. Let's look at. Let's take it away from the decision
And
making.
did you ask
Hold on,
why?
let me
Did
say
you
one
ask
thing.
if
Let me
he
say one.
should have invited
No,
her?
I said, should he? That's why I kept interrupting him. It wasn't a matter of him asking her. He's making the decision based on what's good for him. That's why I said if he left the situation and the mother reared the child for the most of her life, and she's poisoned the child or turned the child against the father, and he knows this. In every situation or every time he's contacted her, she's crying, she's upset. Do you think he should? Independent of what she feels, do you think he should invite her knowing he's going to have to deal with that?
Yes.
So, I think he should invite her and give her the right to refuse. If she refuses, she can't come back later and be like, well, you got married and you didn't invite me. Mom was right. You're a piece of work. If she
Which is
chooses
what I was saying
on her
before.
own merit, he is free and clear. But give her that choice. Don't take that choice from
Which
her.
is
Give
what
her
I was
that.
saying. At least
So
he should invite her, and
If
if
mom
she
is pointing
declines,
her against him,
that's
she
on
ain't
her.
going no goddamn way. Ain't no way in hell she gonna go. But you still invite her. Let her make that choice.
So let me get
She's
this
still
right.
your.
So the wedding should risk being disrupted for her to be invited. Yes or no question?
If she hate him the way
Yes or no question?
no, if she hates him the way you
No,
painted the scenario,
I don't want an explanation. I just want an
she's
answer.
not going to come disrupt that wedding. She's
Is
not
it
going
a
to
yes
show
or no answer that you
You don't
want?
know that. You don't know that. That's why I'm asking for a yes or no question. You're giving me
he
an
should
explanation.
invite
I don't
her.
want an explanation.
Yes, he should invite her.
Yes,
Yes.
he should still invite her
Okay.
and make her feel at least included as a part of his life and try to work on their relationship. I mean, that would be a good start.
Because at the end of the day, if mom has poisoned her against him, then him not inviting her and not telling her all these things, in her mind, mom was right. You're a liar. You never tell the truth. You don't care about me. You don't care. You care.
Ain't
You don't
nothing.
like me. You don't
Ain't
care
never
about
been
me.
nothing.
To your wedding. Like, what does that say? Don't
Now-
feed into it. Invite her ass.
Now let's look at it in two different ways. And Latoya, you mentioned like if he marrying someone and she has kids and they're there, tucked down, dressed down, flower girl and all that, and his child's not there. Yeah, that's something different. But if she doesn't have any children and he has one child and he know my child could be problematic in this situation, so I'm just gonna have to bite this bullet and have to deal with her later, then I think that's a different circumstance that maybe she may not get invited. Maybe she may not get invited. But like I said, if if you're marrying someone, she has kids and they're there, then certainly his child should have that opportunity to be invited and be there as well. Because if pictures start surfacing and she start asking, well, Dad, who
We've
is that?
certainly seen that happen.
Yeah,
You
who
know,
is that?
I know a woman whose ex got married to someone who has children, and the children were in the wedding, and their children were invited, but he broke off communication before all of that happened, so the children weren't in the wedding. And now here her children are going to visit their father, and there's pictures all over the house of them looking like one big happy family, and they're not in it. That's all I'm saying. Like at some point, I
That's
understand the
hurtful.
whole
That's hurtful. That's
selfishness,
hurtful.
but you got to think of how would that affect that child to see pictures of him, his wife, and her children, and she's not invited. She's not a part, but she's supposed to be a part of the family, but not really. Like how, gotta think of how that would affect this child's psyche.
I will tell you what, it doesn't. Want me to tell you how I know? Because I've had a brother do it. I had a brother who had children out of wedlock. He went and got married. The children didn't appear at the wedding.
Does he have a
But that's
relationship?
not going to be everybody's
He
reaction.
does. He no. I'm answering Balakti's question.
Okay.
They are fine. He has a relationship with them, but they didn't go to the wedding, and they were around the same age in this scenario.
And does his wife have children?
They have children together.
No,
But
did his wife have children?
At the time, they didn't have children together.
So then it's not really the same. He married somebody, and it was okay because he probably had the conversation. I'm getting married, and it's probably just an adults only situation. So the kids were fine with it.
But what I'm saying is my brother was in the exact same circumstance.
But he talked to his children about it before he went off and got married.
No, he didn't.
Oh, he didn't?
I just said he was in the exact same circumstances. Children didn't know that he was getting married. It was none of their business.
You know, I'm always
None of their business.
Children.
their business.
They have children.
Now,
far
here's my
too
thing.
often,
It's none of their business. And okay,
it
I
isn't.
can respect it. It's none of
It's
their
for
business.
business.
But they're gonna have
I
to live
think
with
it's
this woman. They should know
No,
something
no,
about
they,
her. He should
no,
see
they don't.
his kids. Like,
They
I just don't
don't.
understand how somebody can.
They don't. They live with their mother. My
And they
brother
never
was
visit your
out.
brother.
My brother was out of the city. He went away to college, met his fiance. They got married. His children from another union never came to that wedding. I'm telling
Were
you,
they invited?
And they never come visit
they were
him.
not. They were not invited.
And they
I'm
never come visit
telling
him.
And that's none of the children's business. That's their father.
It's not their business. It
I would
is
say, yeah,
his
it's their
Now,
business.
wife.
do they go visit him and
Let
his
my
wife?
dad
Or
do
he
something like
has,
that.
no
No, they
communication?
don't.
Is he a check in the
No.
mail?
What do you mean? Is it checking the mail?
Like, is he on child support? Like, does he just send them money and not be bothered? Like, do they come and visit him and his wife? Like, how does that work?
They're adults now. This happened some years ago, but they were the same age in this scenario that they were then.
Okay,
And
so
this
they
is
were
what I'm.
16. So
You
they
guys
probably
are
didn't see
basically.
any damn why.
I'm giving you an actual situation in which this
No,
occurred.
but I'm saying they probably didn't care. If they were like her age, they probably were the age where they're just like whatever.
But what
Okay.
makes you think this daughter cares?
I mean, she she
What
cared
makes
enough
you
to
think
reach
your
out
daughter
and ask
cares?
for advice. So obviously, I'm thinking she cares.
But what
I
makes you know she cares? This is
She
this is
fit
my
the
point.
scenario, and
See,
I
now,
think she
now, now
probably
you
Oh,
want to
we're
cares.
pick and
talking
choose.
about the scenario. We don't know.
Right. So don't assign
Right. We
care to
don't
somebody that
know.
hasn't demonstrated care. Stick with the scenarios. Don't start adding stuff.
I'm not adding stuff.
What do you
I'm
mean
just
we don't
saying
add stuff? We're coming to
Because
conclusions based on
because
what we don't do and don't
exactly
know.
coming to conclusions based
How are
on
you gonna
what's
say
been
don't add
presented.
to it? Well, we don't know the whole story.
because it's being said that she cares. How do we know?
Well,
We
How do you
don't.
know she don't?
I'm not saying she does one way or
Okay
the other.
then.
I'm just simply saying that he has a right as an
You
adult
understand the
not to
scenario, and
include
people
her
who don't
in
care
his
don't ask questions.
decision. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. As an adult, he has a right to not include her. You guys are saying that he should. He has a right not to.
Morally, he should.
I never said he doesn't have a right not to. I didn't say he doesn't have. He has a right to do whatever he wants to. He has a right to have a big old wedding and broadcast it on fucking TV if he wants to. I'm just saying, give her, just give her the opportunity. Give her the the right of refusal.
Included.
If she decides not to go, he should invite her so she feels included. If she chooses not to go, that's another story.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you say he was wrong for not inviting her?
Yes, invite her. Yes, he should invite her. He has a right not to, but that doesn't mean that his decision is right either, though.
Who's saying, once again, this is not about right or wrong. This is about the ability for him to make a decision. Nothing more, nothing
And this
less.
is also about our opinion about the scenario.
Consequences of what could come from this.
Pardon?
And that's all I'm saying. And if he can live with that consequence, then hey, more power to him, and I wish her the best of luck.
He's already been living with it. She's 17.
The point is, from our perspective, he should morally invite her to make her feel included, to start a bond, like build the bridge. If she refuses, then that's fine.
But what about his feelings? What about his feelings? Do they not matter at all?
I didn't say they don't matter.
His feelings matter too.
I'm asking if they matter, because you guys are favoring
feelings matter too.
Feelings over his feelings.
I guess that's an important question
because
when we think about stuff like when does your feelings, does children feelings always supersede adults feelings? Like when is it a cutoff?
I would say not
It's a first
always,
hand.
but
No, they don't always supersede an adult's feelings. Absolutely not.
if
And
it's
this is
going to
one of
cause
those
future
situations.
damage, it should matter.
This is one of those situations where the adult's saying, "Look, I'm putting my feelings first, whether it's well received or not." Like I said, I'm not here to say he did the right thing or the wrong thing. He did the best thing for him at that time. Like I said earlier, he's going to have to deal with it later. But right
Or
now,
maybe his fiance just didn't like the fact that he had another kid, so he was following her.
you guys are talking at the same time.
Because
Go ahead. You guys are talking at the same time.
go ahead,
I
Anita.
said maybe his fiance don't like the fact that he has a kid from somebody in his history. Maybe he's listening to her and not necessarily really want to make that decision, but listening to his fiance. I'd be like,
It's
ew.
possible.
I gotta think about my child.
It's very possible. But if
What-
that's going to be his wife, at some point in time, he's going to want to defer to her.
What if his whole thing
He's
was
gonna
like,
wanna what?
what if his whole thing was like, I just want to jump this broom and get through it, and then after that, man, I'm gonna make this up to my daughter. We're gonna be fine. She's gonna be invited to everything else. I just wanted to get through this because I know how things could be if I would have shared her leading up to the wedding. And that's just one
But he
perspective.
can make a quick phone call. He can make a quick few phone calls the night before, like I did to my mom the night before I signed up for the Army. Hey, this is what I'm doing. Don't talk me out of it. It's gonna happen, and we'll deal with it.
Keyword. You said the night before. So you're suggesting he should have said the night before he got married, told his daughter, like, listen, I'm getting married tomorrow. So you kind of strong armed your mother, like, so she couldn't, she didn't have no choice. She didn't have no choice. She didn't have no days to kind of work with you. If you'd have told her a month ahead, she probably would have been in your ear for 30 days. So you played that right.
Talking me out of it.
Yeah. So
right.
He should
And
have
plus
did
I was
that
18.
a day
That's
before.
what I said. Is let her know, and it is what it is.
So even a day before is
just let her
good.
know.
Yep.
For her to find out on Facebook and not from him directly. Come on now.
That's problem.
It's just a phone call.
Added problem.
It's a phone call, an email, a text. Hey, I'm getting married. But surprise on Facebook. Come on, man.
Y'all play a dirty game, man. Y'all ladies play a dirty game.
Pretty much,
no, we don't.
Like, man, just send a text, an email, a phone call. Hey,
y'all play a dirty game.
How is it dirty? No.
Yeah,
at least they could have a conversation.
In essence,
conversation doesn't mean that, oh, I'm not going to marry her because my daughter doesn't agree. It's just like, hey, I'm getting married. This is what I've chosen to do.
And the way y'all did it. Anita said she called it the night before. I'm going to the Army. You didn't even give her a chance to reflect on it. The decision, that's a dirty game you playing.
No, let me tell you. I was 18. I'm old enough.
It's a dirtier game.
I'm old enough to fight for my country.
I got you y'all right now. Y'all should see right now, like he got me. Y'all backed up against the ropes. Y'all play a dirty game.
Absolutely not.
No. I made the best decision for myself as an adult at 18.
So the father could make the best decision. Yeah, hush now and say, you got me.
Yeah.
Listen, the reason why I didn't discuss it is because I know my mother would put the fear in God in me and talk me out of it, especially because growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, that is forbidden. So there was other factors other than I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to get out of Niagara Falls, get some college money, get some world experience. and I did not want my mom to be trying to talk me out of it because she would make me scared.
So the father couldn't have thought the same thing. Like, I already know if I tell my daughter how this gonna end up. If I tell them too far in advance, the mother, they're gonna be all in my case. They're gonna be just trying to make this the worst experience. So
Maybe not. He don't know that.
maybe the same thing with Anita.
I mean,
Maybe your mother would have
All we
said.
know is
Maybe
that-
Anita's mother would have
mean,
said, "Go
we
ahead,
don't
see
have
the
all.
world."
We don't have all of the.
Oh no,
the
she wouldn't. She'd be
all we
like,
know
"Are
is
you out of your damn mind?"
on Facebook.
She'd throw a
that
shoe
her
at my
dad was
head.
gay, and he lied about being in a relationship. So, I mean,
Yeah, see how these conversations work. There's
But
no right or
at
wrong.
least,
no, there is
at
no right
least
or wrong
I
answer.
gave my mom the respect to tell her what I was doing
She
before
could
I
have just
did it.
left out and not said
So
nothing
she
at
can have
all.
so she can have an opinion, but I was still gonna do it. I
Okay,
still,
you was trying to get
that
that
was like
woman a
my
damn
first
heart
big step
attack.
as an adult.
You was trying to give her a
I
heart
mean,
attack.
when
If
my
I would have
brother
told
did
her,
the
she would have
same
thrown
thing.
some shoes at me and stuff. No.
Mm.
So
All right.
I think it worked out pretty well. She adjusted. My dad was like, "Hey, go ahead." My dad's a veteran. He was like, "Hey, whatever." Until
So
I
what
cried
if
when I had to touch the M16. My dad was like, "Well, you signed up for it. You got to do what they tell you to do." I was like, "Yeah, you're right, Dad. I'll suck it
So-
up and do whatever they tell me to do."
so what if Kendra, her stepmom and her dad relationship is strong as hell right now, and they're all right. It worked out, whatever. And the father made the right decision. And now that Kendra's 22, 23, and she's like, "Dad, I'm glad you ain't tell me because I'd have flipped the lid, but now our relationship is strong.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And
I'm going to
that's part of
family
personal
reunions.
growth,
We going
huh,
on
her?
cruise. I'm just saying, so we don't know how this stuff could work.
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm not saying he doesn't have a right to. It's just say, oh, this shit could turn out real bad either way. But I'd rather deal with the shit ahead than have her fuming and plotting shit to fuck up my life the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason it's put out there because every day people go through these things. It might not be a marriage; it may be another decision that we have to make, and that's some of the things we have to look at. Always knowing your personnel, like how is this person going to take this information? How are they going to receive it? Should I wait after, or should I tell them now, weeks in advance, and then my life is hell from that point forward? Or I tell them once it's done and they have to accept it. They may be mad, but they know I'm a stand-up type of person and we get through it.
That's right.
So you have to
That's
gauge stuff and know the individual that you're dealing with. There's no, like I said, there's no cookie cutter approach into this, but knowing your personnel leads to a lot. Like, all right, I already know how they're going to respond to that. I already know. So I know I can't say nothing right now because
this him not saying anything and then she finds out about it. Now you're giving her room to sit in this idea and to fume about it. And there's no guarantees that she's going to come out on the other side and be okay with it. She might come out on the other side and have a whole plan for how she going to fuck him and his wife up when she sees him.
Yeah, that's true too. That's true too.
And then
look,
you know what?
Have the conversation. If she go batshit crazy on him, let her get it out. On the other end of it, she'll be like, you know what? If this is what you want to do, fine, whatever. You know, I ain't coming to your wedding or whatever it is, or I'm still gonna come to your wedding. But have the conversation in advance. Don't just do it and then it's like, oh, I'm gonna make it up later. You might not get that chance. She might be like, fuck you. You don't care enough about me to invite you. I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
So these are things you gotta think about.
Sometimes you just have to be strong and not be a coward about things and talk about it. And this reminds me of the first time that I had a black boyfriend, and my grandma's 107, so my family on that side wasn't raised like interracial. They're not used to the world. And my mom wasn't really comfortable with it at first, but when she knew I stand up for myself and the decision I make is what I want to make, regardless of how she feels about it, she respected my decision. She respected me to make the best decision that I could make without her, I guess, consent or not, I would say. But I
Yeah.
mean, she got over it. Like,
You
people
want
are
to do what you.
people. I don't see.
Yeah. And the same thing with Kendra. Children have a lot of resolve. They have a lot of
They
resolve.
really do.
And it's based on the adult influences. And I always say that one of my supervisors said this to me a long time ago. Said most poor decisions by kids is led by poor decisions adults made ahead of time. And kids can work through that stuff if they have positive influences in their life that can lead them to other ways, whatever. But if the father says, I'm getting married, and the daughter like, wow, you getting married, dad? Well, start questioning them. Then the mother responds, oh, he getting married. He called you with that. Why he ain't called me with that shit? Whatever. But what
Ain't none of
about
my
that?
damn business. She an
Yeah,
ex.
yeah. That still don't
Ain't
mean
none of
she's
my
not.
damn business. That's between a
Yeah,
father and his daughter.
it still don't mean
I
she's not gonna put that out
right.
there.
I think a lot of people underestimate the influence a mother has on a child. And I think when that really becomes understood, what we're saying in terms of the influence or the way a mother can condition a child to think about their father will be better understood.
A father can do the same thing.
Okay,
You'd be surprised how
let,
many fathers influence their kids.
let's examine that. Who has
Maybe.
control over the vast majority of children, fathers or mothers?
As
These
of right
days
now,
is
mother.
gaming as
But that's
fathers.
not to say that there aren't fathers who have control over
We're,
their
we're,
children.
we're, we're not saying that there isn't. What we're saying is women have more control. We know fathers have some, but if mothers have more control, then who is more than likely to do the influencing, the father or the mother?
What do you mean more control? Like they
I
have
would,
more
Who
I
has
won't say
primary
custody
control.
of the
I'll say
children?
moms have more interactions than fathers. That's a better way of putting it.
No, that's
Always
a
a
better way to
relative
make you
thing.
feel. Because the mothers have, we've already established this. Y'all
No,
don't want to
it's
give
not. It's
control.
not a
Y'all don't want to give control. You don't want to give control of the children to the father, no matter what, because the father could be a
Nobody.
drunk. He
We
could be.
didn't
No, this is
establish
all the stuff
that.
that's been said. This is all the stuff that's been said. I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said by various women on this panel. You don't want to give control of the
Okay.
father. You give control of the child to the father because you think he might be a deadbeat, molester, whatever the case is. So if you don't want to give control of the child to the father, then the mother has primary custody and a greater influence than the father has. That's the equivalent to saying that I can make a child something by having control of that child 2 days out of the week, and you have control of the other 5. I don't think anybody would actually even agree with that.
You'd be surprised how smart some kids
Depends on
are.
what kind of mother she is.
I would not
It
disagree with that.
depends.
What
It
I'm
depends on
saying
what kind
is
of father he is as well.
influence. It's the
Hmm.
influence that a parent has. We're not.
But these,
You would have to. You
I
would have
won't
to
even say
show
that
me.
because you know what? A lot of days, neither parent has control over a child. At least from my perspective.
Influence. Influence is not control.
They don't have influence over their kids either.
And how often?
Oh, on a daily basis. I see kids who parents have absolutely zero influence over their damn kids. You call them to the school and they're like, what the fuck you call her for? She can't do shit.
Okay. And how many children do you see
Well,
roughly a day? How many
hey,
children do you see roughly a day?
it's about 700 and something kids I see a day.
How many kids are there that exist in the United States?
Millions.
That's my point.
Actually, millions on there.
You're not even talking about 100th of 1%. I'm talking about children across the spectrum where parents are actively involved and they influence a child, whether negatively or positively. We only tend to look at the positive impact of an adult in a child's life. And we just talked about what if a parent is a negative influence in a child's life. In other words, that parent is doing things that triggers something in that adult's brain that says, I don't want to deal with you because that reminds me of something that my parent did, whether it's a mother or father, and they consider that to be a negative. Those are the influences that we never talk about because they don't surface until later down the road. This is why they talk about therapy, so those can be unearthed and dealt with.
Woo!
So can I just say something? I noticed like more and more lately that guys are getting custody more often of their kids. So it might be changing the dynamic.
But it's long overdue.
Like in the long run.
It's been long overdue. But that's a slow. That's like an iceberg moving. It's a slow process, and by the time
it is
any real correction is done, I don't want to say damage. The lasting impact will already be set in. This is why we say that we don't say these things because we're anti-women or we want there to be a balance because when we walk, our arms offer us balance. Just imagine trying to run with one arm, how difficult it would be to run versus having two arms. Just imagine how difficult it would be to walk having one leg shorter than the other. We preach balance here. Always have, always will. But in order for the women to understand that you have to divorce yourself you have to divorce your feelings from what's being discussed. And when you can't do that, the first thing you do is you filter everything through your feelings. This is why we always hear women say,
I never filter anything.
Well, because
if I filter things,
I
get a lot of hurtful things by now. Because when I get in my feelings, I go for the jugular. So I most definitely never involve my feelings in these conversations because I know me. And I know when I get in my feelings,
that's what I said earlier, when it clouds your judgment. It clouds everybody's judgment because it doesn't allow you to take the facts and make a clear and concise and smart decision based on the facts.
Because I'm making smart decisions when I'm angry. It's just that the consequence of it, I'm like, well, oh well.
But we said that with this scenario. I'm glad you finally come around to understanding what we were saying. Only took you about an hour.
Don't be an ass.
Who's being an ass? I'm just pointing out what you refuse to acknowledge.
The fifth time you have insulted my intelligence, and I have been real respectful about it.
Well, if you think I'm insulting your intelligence, then how about step your intelligence up then?
That is your last time. That's your
intelligence. That's wrong answer, Herb. That was wrong.
Your intelligence up then.
That's your last time.
Hey, you don't have to come on the panel. You do not have to come on the panel.
Okay, so can I just say something? Can I just say something here real quick?
When I start insulting your intelligence, you're going to feel it.
You can't do that. It's not possible. I'm glad you think so, though.
Keep it respectful.
It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. You don't have that type of weaponry. Trust me.
I promise you I do. I promise you I do. I've already made it once, Herb. Don't play with me. You don't know me like that. Don't get
I don't know how did it get to this
that.
point. Wow, it's so explosive.
Okay, so to de-escalate this situation between you guys, I just wanted to say what I was thinking about, because Herb's always talking about in your feelings, making decisions. Well, that's what he's been talking about the whole show, making decisions out of your feelings. But then there's in theory, black and white, but we don't make decisions in theory. We make decisions in real life. So I don't understand when you say, people make decisions out of their feelings. Well, yeah, we're all human and we all,
Anita,
I mean, you can read a book. Hold on. You can read a book and read a theory, and that's going to be in black and white. But if it actually happens to you, you may deal with it in a different way because you have some life experience which goes with emotions and feelings. That's all I'm saying.
Anita, I said sometimes you have to be able to divorce your
And
feelings.
as I said, that's a
Hold on,
maturity
hold
thing.
on. I didn't
That's
say
a
all the time.
maturity thing,
I said
and
sometimes you have to
with
be able to
comes with
divorce
maturity.
your
That's
feelings
not something
from
that people
a
can just do. It's
situation.
something you learn.
Because if you can't divorce your feelings from a situation, then you're always making decisions based on emotions. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying
But
that at
doesn't
certain
everybody
times.
make decisions based on emotion and feelings?
Pardon?
Doesn't everybody make decisions based on their emotions and feelings?
Yes, but do they do it all the time?
You were just talking not so nice to her, so you were talking
I
out of your
reflect what is
feelings, it
given to me.
sounded like.
I reflect what is given to me.
I sure do too.
I
It's
said she
okay,
finally
Herb.
came around to what we had been saying for the last hour. That was not a shot. She took it personal. She wants to take it
No,
personal.
you didn't have to
Take it
say.
personal.
You didn't have
I
to say
don't
anything about my intelligence
care.
in it, though. So keep being an ass. I'm gonna give you everything that you dish out. You just don't keep waiting.
Listen, I look at it as
Simply
this:
put.
it's always going to be some back and forth.
It could always be back and forth, but there's a difference between being respectful and disrespectful. I don't sit up here and bring and talk about anybody's intelligence when I say anything. Have I ever brought up anybody's intelligence? No, I do not. Why? Because that's rude and it's disrespectful. What does somebody's intelligence have to do with anything? Nothing. It's a simple conversation about a scenario. Keep it about the scenario.
And that's true. And it should none of this should turn into personal, because it's not our situations. We may be familiar with certain things. We may have went through certain situations regarding this, but it should never get to that point. And I know we're going to have disagreements anytime you have group dynamics. It's going to be some tit for tat or going back and forth, but we shouldn't personalize and internalize these scenarios unless some of it will hit home because you might be in that particular situation. But oftentimes I kind of laugh because I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And we're just having a conversation, which leads me to think this is everyday life. This is everyday life. We have couples that go, as you see how the dynamics roll out, that go back and forth and things aren't working because because the way we respond to stuff. This is the life we live. Anybody agree? This is just how it is.
No, I definitely agree.
So it's hard to.
Well, guys, I have to go because my dog is snoring and I cannot hardly hear you guys. So it was a nice discussion.
I thought the soup man was dropping off some soup. All right, Nita, thanks for
Herb
joining
ain't
us.
coming over on his bike dropping off no soup. I know that.
Nope,
I'm about to have some chocolate wine and chill. Bye, guys.
All right, Anita, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you. All right, we're going to close it out, whatever. And we know it's an evolving thing. It's an evolving conversation, whatever. And people, when you have these type of discussions, which may not deal with any of us directly, sometimes it draws out emotions. And I think That's the ultimate goal anyway, to draw out emotions. That's my whole thing, to bring out emotions and talk about it and have courageous conversations like this. So
Yeah.
we're not gonna ever totally gonna agree, and we could critically think, and we could break down each situation from Kendra to Timothy the father and all that stuff. But like I said, every day and every time we had these conversations, somebody's living this shit right now. They're living it, and they got to be faced with decisions. And they got to be faced with decisions. It's how they handle it, and sometimes it depends on where they're getting coached from or whatever the case is. So say, for example, if somebody was listening to this and they was like, man, I listened to, I was in the counselor's corner and I listened to this. So I thought about how I responded, and it made a change for me, because typically I would respond this way, but I thought about how I respond. That's what it's all about anyway. We just airing it out and using this stuff as teachable moments, whatever. No hard feelings, although a lot of us get into our feelings, and that's okay. That's okay. It's what you do with those feelings that matter. So mad at each other today, then Monday it'll be a whole different thing. That's how I take it. All right, we're gonna get some closing comments and get out of here. Because I'm gonna be in my feelings, whatever, because my secretary for the last 3 years is leaving, got a promotion. And man, she was great. She was great.
Well, congrats for her.
Congrats for her. Sucks for me. Sucks for me.
No, sorry about that.
And it ain't nothing better than administrative assistants and secretarial. They are the real MVPs. And they hold it down. And now I'm like, that's just another challenge, whatever. So I'm in my feelings because tomorrow is her last day.
You gotta learn somebody else, and they have to learn you. Oh man!
Exactly. So life goes on. So Herb, you said you already know yours, so drop it again.
Growth and understanding occurs in a gray area. Godspeed. See you next time.
All right, Brolic T.
I mean, as always, be honest with yourself and others, because nobody likes a liar. And I'd like to add, treat people how you want to be treated. If you don't want anybody to disrespect you, then think about what you say before you say things, because people always react according to the energy that's provided. So,
all right. My thing is, these situations are put out there. There's no right or wrong answer. We can dissect it. We can talk about it. We can bring personal insight to the scenario. And that's what it's all about. These courageous conversations that we don't know. We don't have a final answer. We don't know what the hell happened totally with this situation. But I know that on the surface, there was a lot of different dynamics going on. So it leads to almost like a tree with different branches. Like we can attack different areas. This whole conversation could go on for weeks, just trying to attack different areas. And that's what I'm trying to do. Trying to have these conversations and draw out emotions, and we talk about it. And hey, sometimes we get off. You may be disappointed, may be upset, but who cares? We got to get over it anyway. We got to move forward. Unless you plan on dying in your sleep, we don't have no control of that. We just got to move forward. As long as you wake up, you got to move forward.
That's true.
So with that said, I'm out. Appreciate you all. Stay tuned for Monday open court discussions. Thanks to everybody who participated in the chat. Thanks Herb, Anita, Latoya for coming on the panel today. And again, if you want to join the panel, hit me up and we could add more to it, and we can keep building and keep growing and having these conversations. And please share and like the video, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. Hey, let's keep growing. Let's get it. I'm out. Everybody have a good weekend. Stay safe. And hey, we know things are opening up, but don't mean pandemic ain't going nowhere.
None of that stuff.
Yeah. Things are opening up rapidly, whatever. But you still got to be safe.
None of that stuff.
Yeah, buddy.
I hear
I'm
you.
I'm I'm
I'm
hanging.
playing with it. Don't
I'm hunting
care.
down. I know some people that's got the they've got their shot, so I'm gonna be monitoring their health and see how they handle it. But I'm staying out of sight.
Hey, that's what we got to do. We still got to protect ourselves. Protect yourself at all times. All right, people. Appreciate you all, and I'll talk to y'all
Yeah.
soon. All right, be good. Or be great.
Night.
All right.